The research vessel Taeguk moved slowly through the dark space beyond the Kepler Nebula. Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship was not built for war. It carried scientists, not soldiers. The Taeguk had only basic weapons and shields, but Do-hyun had served in the outer colonies for 20 years. He knew that space could be dangerous, even for peaceful ships. "Captain, we're getting something interesting from the surface," said Dr. Park Soman, the chief science officer. She was young but brilliant, and her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "The ruins down there are much older than we thought. Maybe 50,000 years old." Do-hyun walked over to look at her screen. The dead planet below them showed strange geometric patterns carved into stone. The patterns were too perfect to be natural, too organized to be random. "Any signs of technology?" "Some kind of power source," Soman replied. "It's very weak, but it's definitely artificial. I think we should send a team down to investigate." Lieutenant Commander Kim Jin-ho, the tactical officer, looked up from his station. "Sir, I don't like it. Dead civilizations sometimes leave nasty surprises behind. We should be careful." Do-hyun nodded. Jin-ho was right to be cautious. The man had fought in 3 border conflicts and knew when something felt wrong. But the chance to study a civilization this old was too valuable to pass up. "Take a small team. Soman, standard precautions and keep the comm channel open at all times." 4 hours later, Soman's team was on the surface, walking through the ancient ruins. The structures were massive, built from some kind of dark stone that seemed to absorb light. Engineer Choi Minji, who had gone down with the science team, was scanning everything with her equipment. "These power readings are getting stronger," Minji said over the comm. "It's like something is waking up down here." Communications officer Yoon Tae-hyung, who was monitoring from the ship, suddenly spoke. "Up. Captain, I'm picking up some kind of signal from the ruins. It's very faint, but it's definitely artificial." On the planet's surface, Soman was examining what looked like a control panel. The symbols were unlike anything in the database. But as she touched one of the symbols, it began to glow. Then another, and another. "Soman, get away from there," Do-hyun ordered. But it was too late. A pulse of energy shot up from the ruins into space. The pulse was bright blue and expanded outward like a ripple in water. It passed through the Taeguk harmlessly, but it kept going, spreading far beyond the solar system. "What did you do?" Do-hyun asked. "I don't know," Soman replied, her voice shaking. "I just touched the panel. The whole structure is lighting up now." Tae-hyung was frantically working at his station. "Captain, that pulse just sent a signal across half the galaxy. It's some kind of beacon." "A beacon for what?" "I don't know, sir. But if I were a betting man, I'd say we just told everyone in this part of space exactly where we are." Do-hyun felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "Get the team back up here." Now, 30 minutes later, the away team was back on the ship. But it was already too late. The first ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Then more ships. And more. "Captain," Jin-ho said, his voice tight with tension, "we have company. Big company." The view screen showed space filling with alien vessels. They came from 3 different directions, and their ships looked nothing like each other. The first group had ships that looked like giant insects, all curves and organic shapes. The second group had ships that glowed with their own light like they were made of pure energy. The third group had ships that looked like metal fortresses, all angles and armor. "How many?" Do-hyun asked. "Over 2,000 ships, sir. 3 different fleets. They're not working together, but they're all heading for us." Tae-hyung was trying to establish contact. "I'm getting responses from all 3 fleets, sir, but they're not friendly. The first group calls themselves the Vrex Dominion. They're saying something about destroying the beacon activators. The second group is the Nethys Collective. They want to cleanse the contamination. The third group is the Korath Empire. They're just saying, prepare for judgment." "None of them want to talk?" "They're all talking, sir. They're just not saying anything we want to hear." The alien fleets began to form a sphere around the human ship. They moved slowly like hunters surrounding prey. Each fleet stayed separate from the others, but they all focused on the Taeguk. Soman was studying the data from the ruins. "Captain, I think I understand what happened. This beacon was a trap. These three species have been fighting each other for thousands of years. The beacon was designed to lure potential allies or new threats to this location. When anyone activates it, all three fleets come running." "Great," Do-hyun muttered. "So we're stuck in the middle of an alien war." "It gets worse, sir," Jinho reported. "All three fleets are charging their weapons. They're planning to destroy us first, then probably fight each other for whatever's left." Do-hyun looked around the bridge. His crew was good, but they were scientists and explorers, not warriors. The Taeguk had a crew of 847 people, most of them researchers and technicians. Against over 2,000 alien warships, they had no chance in a straight fight. "Options?" he asked. "We could run," Minji suggested. "Our engines are fast." "Not fast enough," Jinho replied. "They've got us completely surrounded, and some of those ships look faster than us anyway." "We could surrender," Tae-hyung offered, though he didn't sound like he believed it would work. "I don't think they're in a surrendering mood," Do-hyun said. The alien ships were getting closer. Energy readings were spiking across all three fleets. They would fire soon, and when they did, the Taeguk would be destroyed in seconds. That's when Soman spoke up again. "Captain, I'm seeing something in the data, from the ruins. There are 17 other worlds in this sector with similar structures, and they're all connected somehow." "Connected how?" "Harmonic frequencies. If we could send the right signal, we might be able to activate all of them at once." Do-hyun stared at her. "What would that do?" "I'm not sure. But it might confuse their sensors. Or it might make them think there are threats on all those other worlds too. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was better than waiting to die. Minji, can you modify our archaeological scanner to broadcast on those frequencies?" "I'll have to overload it completely. It'll probably destroy the array." "Do it." The next few minutes felt like hours. Minji worked frantically to reconfigure the scanner while the alien fleets closed in. Energy signatures were building to dangerous levels across all three groups. They were almost ready to fire. "Scanner ready, sir," Minji reported, "but I'm not sure what will happen when I activate it." "Only one way to find out." "Do it." Minji pressed the activation button. The scanner overloaded and sent a massive pulse of energy into space. The pulse spread outward at faster than light speed, carrying the harmonic frequency pattern to all 17 worlds in the sector. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Ancient ruins on 17 different planets suddenly blazed with light. The combined energy created a subspace resonance that scrambled sensors across the entire sector. The alien ships' targeting systems went haywire. Their threat assessment computers couldn't figure out what was happening. But more importantly, each fleet's automated systems identified the sudden energy surges from the other two fleets as the primary threat. The Virex Dominion ships swung around to face the Nethys Collective. The Nethys ships began charging weapons aimed at the Korath Empire. The Korath vessels started targeting both other groups. Within minutes, the three alien fleets were firing at each other instead of the human ship. Space filled with energy beams, missiles, and explosions as the three-way battle began. "It worked," Jinho said, amazement in his voice. "They're fighting each other." But Do-hyun wasn't celebrating yet. Some ships from each fleet were still watching. The Taeguk. They were confused, but they hadn't forgotten about the humans. The battle would continue for a while, but eventually the aliens would figure out what had happened. And when they did, they would be very angry. "This bought us time," Do-hyun said. "But it won't last forever. We need to be ready for the next move. And whatever we do, it can't be the same trick twice." The captain looked out at the massive space battle raging around his small research ship. Somehow, they had turned certain death into a chance for survival. But the real test was just beginning. The space battle raged around the Taeguk for 3 hours. Captain Lee Do-hyun watched from the bridge as thousands of alien ships fired at each other. The Vrex Dominion insects swarmed in huge groups, attacking like angry bees. The Nethys Collective. Energy beings moved their glowing ships in perfect formations. The Korath Empire metal fortresses fired massive weapons that could destroy entire squadrons. But even during the chaos, some ships from each fleet kept watching the human vessel. They stayed at a safe distance, but their weapons were still pointed at the Taeguk. Do-hyun knew his trick had only delayed the inevitable. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Kim Jin-ho said from his tactical station, "I've been studying their battle patterns. Each species knows how to fight the other two very well. They've been doing this for a long time, but none of them understand human tactics." "That's because we don't really have any tactics against aliens," Communications Officer Yoon Tae-hyung replied. "This is humanity's first contact with any of them." Dr. Park So-min looked up from her science console. "Maybe that's our advantage. They expect us to fight like one of the three species they know. But we're completely different." Engineer Choi Minji was working on repairing the damage from their first trick. "The archaeological scanner is completely fried. We can't use that method again. We need something new." Do-hyun nodded. "Ideas?" So-min had been studying the ship's equipment. "What about our quantum communicator? We use it to send messages back to Earth. But the quantum entanglement signal is very distinctive. Other ships can detect it even if they can't read the messages." "How? Does that help us?" Jin-ho asked. "What if we made it look like we were calling for backup? A lot of backup?" Tae-hyung's eyes lit up. "You want to fake quantum signatures, make it look like human fleets are coming." "Exactly. We can't call for real help because our nearest fleet is months away, but we could make fake signals that look like dozens of human ships approaching from different directions." Minji was already thinking about the technical problems. "I'd have to completely rebuild the quantum array, and we'd need a lot of power to create multiple fake signatures." "Can you do it?" Do-hyun asked. "Give me 2 hours." While Minji worked on the quantum array, the alien battle began to slow down. Ships from all three fleets were damaged or destroyed. The survivors were starting to regroup and reorganize, and more importantly, they were beginning to remember the human ship that had started this whole mess. "Captain," Jin-ho reported, "scout ships from all three fleets are breaking off from the main battle. They're heading our way." Do-hyun could see them on the screen. Fast ships from each alien fleet were approaching the Taeguk. They moved carefully, scanning everything. "They're trying to figure out what we did," So-min said. "Once they realize how we tricked them, they'll stop fighting each other and focus on us." "How long until they figure it out?" "Maybe an hour, maybe less." Tae-hyung was monitoring alien communications. "I'm picking up chatter from the scout ships. They're sharing data with their main fleets. The Vreks are talking about deception patterns. The Nethys are discussing false harmonics. The Korath are analyzing tactical misdirection." "They're smart," Do-hyun said. "Too smart." Minji's voice came over the comm from the engineering deck. "Quantum array is ready, Captain. I can create up to 50 fake ship signatures, but each one will only last about 30 minutes before the aliens figure out they're not real." "Do it." The modified quantum communicator began broadcasting false signals. To alien sensors, it looked like massive human fleets were approaching from 5 different directions. The quantum signatures were identical to those produced by real human warships, but there were no actual ships behind them. The effect was immediate. The alien scout ships stopped their approach and began transmitting urgent messages to their fleets. Within minutes, all 3 alien armadas were repositioning themselves to face the apparent human reinforcements. "It's working," Jin-ho said. "They're spreading their forces to cover multiple attack vectors." But Tae-hyung had discovered something interesting while monitoring alien communications. "Captain, I'm starting to understand their languages better. Each species has different ideas about honor and warfare." "Explain." "The Vreks think in terms of hive survival. They're paranoid about being betrayed. The Nethys believe in purification through combat. They see battle as a sacred duty. The Korath adapt to every threat. They're constantly analyzing and counter-analyzing." So-min looked thoughtful. "Could we use those differences against them?" "What do you mean?" "What if we sent messages to each fleet suggesting that the others are planning to betray them?" Do-hyun stared at her. "Psychological warfare. Turn their own paranoia against them." Tae-hyung. was already working on translation protocols. I could craft specific messages for each species. Tell the Vrex that the other two are planning to attack them after destroying the humans. Tell the Nethys that the others are corrupted and need to be cleansed. Tell the Korath that the optimal strategy is to eliminate both competitors. Do it. But be subtle. If they realize we're manipulating them, the trick won't work. For the next 20 minutes, Taehyung sent carefully crafted messages to each alien fleet. The messages were designed to look like intercepted communications between the other two species. Each message played on the specific fears and motivations of the receiving fleet. The results exceeded their expectations. The Vrex Dominion, already paranoid by nature, became convinced that the Nethys and Korath were planning to betray them. They began charging weapons against both other fleets simultaneously. The Nethys Collective, believing they had a sacred duty to purify corruption, started preparing to attack the Vrex and Korath. The Korath Empire, with their adaptive systems, began analyzing all three threats and targeting accordingly. The three-way battle erupted again, but this time it was much more intense. Each fleet was fighting the other two with everything they had. "This is incredible," Jinho said. "They're completely focused on each other now. None of them are paying attention to us." But the celebration was short-lived. Soman had been monitoring the fake quantum signatures. "Captain, the false ship signals are starting to fade. The aliens will figure out they're fake soon." "How soon?" 10 minutes, maybe 15. And Taehyung had bad news too. Some of the scout ships broke off from the main battle. They're heading back toward us. I think they're starting to realize that something doesn't add up. Do-hyun looked at his crew. They had used 2 different tricks, and both had worked. But the aliens were getting smarter. Each time it took them less time to figure out the deception. "We need something completely different," he said. "Something they won't expect." Soman had been studying the archaeological data again. "Captain, remember those microorganisms we found in the ruins? I've been analyzing them further. They're not just ancient, they're designed to interface with technology." "What kind of interface?" "I'm not sure, but they seem to respond to electronic signals, and they're still alive after 50,000 years. Minji joined the conversation from engineering. "You're thinking of using them as a weapon?" "Not a weapon." "Exactly. More like a virus. If we could get these organisms onto the alien ships, they might interfere with their systems." Do-hyun was skeptical. "How do we deliver them? We can't exactly walk over and knock on their airlocks." "The waste disposal system," Minji said suddenly. "I could modify it to create containers filled with the organisms, launch them like torpedoes." "Biological torpedoes?" Jinho asked. "Why not? They're expecting conventional weapons or more electronic tricks. They won't expect us to throw ancient microbes at them." The alien distress signals filled the communication channels. Captain Lee Do-hyun watched as ships from all 3 fleets stopped firing at each other and began sending desperate messages. Communications Officer Yoon Tae-hyung worked frantically to translate the incoming transmissions. "Captain, they're all saying the same thing," Tae-hyung reported. "The organisms are spreading through their ships. Their technology is failing. Some ships have already lost life support." Dr. Park Soman studied the data streaming from the alien vessels. "The microorganisms are adapting faster than I thought possible. They're not just interfering with alien technology. They're consuming it, converting it into something else." "Into what?" Lieutenant Commander Kim Jinho asked. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's growing exponentially." Engineer Choi Minji looked up from her engineering station. "Captain, I'm reading similar effects starting on our own ship. Those organisms didn't just go on to the alien vessels. Some of them stayed here when we launched the containers." Do-hyun felt ice in his veins. "How long before they affect our systems?" "Maybe an hour, maybe less." The first coherent message came from a Vrex commander. Taehyung put it on the main speaker. The voice was insect-like, clicking and buzzing, but the translation was clear. "Human ship, we must speak. The ancient plague awakens. Our species has records. This has happened before." Similar messages came from the Nethys Collective and the Korath Empire. Each alien fleet wanted to talk instead of fight. The threat was bigger than any of them had realized. "Put me through to all 3 fleets," Do-hyun ordered. "Channel open, sir." This is Captain Dohyun of the human vessel Taeguk. We're listening. The response came from 3 different voices speaking at once. Taehyung worked to separate the translations. The Frex commander spoke first. The Ancient Ones left warnings in their ruins. The plague is designed to spread across the galaxy. It targets any species that achieves faster than light travel. A Nethys leader added, "Our energy beings have fought this plague before, long ago. It nearly destroyed our civilization. The plague influences technology to make species fight each other." Finally, a Korath voice joined in. "Our cybernetic analysis confirms both statements. The plague uses conflict to spread. The more advanced the technology, the faster it spreads." Soman was analyzing more data from the ruins. "Captain, I'm finding additional information. The civilization that built these ruins wasn't destroyed by war. They were destroyed by their own creation. This plague was designed to target any species that became too advanced. A reset button for the galaxy," Jinho said grimly. "That's exactly what it is. And we just activated it." The alien ships were showing increasing signs of malfunction. Some vessels from each fleet had gone dark completely. Others were drifting, without power. The organisms were spreading from ship to ship through their communication systems and tractor beams. "We need to work together," Dohyun broadcast to all 3 fleets. "Separately, we all die. Together, we might find a solution." The response was immediate. "Impossible," came from multiple voices. "Our species have been enemies for millennia. The plague makes us want to fight. We cannot trust each other. Then we need to find a way to work together without trusting each other," Dohyun replied. Taehyung had an idea. "Captain, what if we temporarily abandon our advanced technology? The plague seems to spread through electronic systems. If we go back to basic tools and communications, maybe we can think clearly without the plague's influence." Soman looked horrified. "That means shutting down life support, navigation, everything. We'd be flying blind." "Better than being controlled by an ancient weapon," Minji said. "I can manually maintain basic life support, but we'd have to work fast." The alien fleets were reluctant, but as more ships went dark, they began to agree. One by one, vessels from all 4 species began shutting down their advanced systems. The massive warships became little more than metal shells drifting in space. Working with only basic tools and short-range communications, the 4 species began to share information. Each brought something unique to the problem. The humans contributed their adaptability and creative problem-solving skills. The Vrex provided overwhelming numbers and their hive mind's ability to coordinate large groups. The Nethys offered their natural ability to manipulate energy without technology. The Korath shared their knowledge of cybernetic systems and how the plague integrated with them. "The ancient ruins hold the key," Soman reported over a basic radio channel. "But someone needs to go down there and manually access the control systems. The radiation from the plague's growth will be deadly to most species." "How deadly?" Dohyun asked. "Fatal within minutes for humans, Vrex, or Korath. The Nethys might last longer because they're energy-based, but even they would die eventually." The Alliance faced its first major crisis. Someone had to make the ultimate sacrifice, but none of the species could survive long enough to complete the mission. "Wait," Soman said suddenly. "I've been infected by the plague since I first touched the control panel in the ruins. But I've been fighting its influence through meditation techniques I learned on Earth. Maybe I can resist it long enough." "Absolutely not," Dohyun said immediately. "Captain, I'm the only one who understands the ancient technology, and I'm already infected. The plague can't make me any worse than I already am." The discussion continued for precious minutes while the plague spread to more ships. Finally, representatives from each alien fleet agreed with Soman's plan. They would modify a shuttle to get her down to the planet's surface with basic life support. But as the shuttle was being prepared, sensors detected something new. One of the alien fleets was powering up their weapons. "The Korath Empire ships are charging their main batteries," Jinho reported. "It looks like they're planning to betray the Alliance." Tension immediately rose between the species. The Vrex began preparing for battle. The Nethys started gathering energy for defense. Wait, Taehyung said. I'm intercepting a Korath transmission. They're not planning to attack us. Then what are they doing? They're planning to sacrifice their entire fleet as a shield. The ancient ruins' destruction will create a massive radiation burst. The Korath ships will absorb most of it to protect the others. The revelation stunned everyone. The Korath cybernetic ships were most resistant to radiation because of their artificial components. They could survive the blast long enough to shield the organic species. We won't let you sacrifice yourselves, Do-Yun broadcast to the Korath fleet. It is the logical solution, came the reply. Our survival chances are highest. Your species have greater potential for long-term growth. The equation is clear. There has to be another way. Salmon had been studying the plague data while listening to the conversation. Captain, I think there might be. Humans are the only species here that isn't native to this galaxy. We came from the Milky Way. Maybe we're immune to certain aspects of the plague. What are you thinking? Instead of destroying the plague, what if we contain it? Use human DNA as a biological firewall. The idea was radical. It would require combining human genetic material with the ancient organisms in a way that had never been attempted. The process would be dangerous and unpredictable. We'd need volunteers from all 4 species, Solman explained. The genetic modification would create hybrid beings capable of interfacing safely with the plague, but there's no guarantee the volunteers would survive. I'll do it, Do-Hyun said immediately. Representatives from each alien fleet also volunteered. The Vreks sent their best scientist. The Nethys offered their most experienced energy manipulator. The Korath provided their most advanced cybernetic being. Minji quickly modified the ship's medical bay to perform the unprecedented multi-species genetic fusion. The process would take everything they had learned about alien biology and push it far beyond safe limits. This is completely experimental, she warned. I have no idea what will happen. We know, Do-Hyun replied. Do it anyway. The genetic modification process began. Pain filled every cell of Do-Hyun's body, as his DNA was combined with alien genetic material and ancient microorganisms. Around him, the alien volunteers were going through the same agonizing transformation. Some of the volunteers didn't survive. A Vrek scientist died during the process. 2 Korath beings shut down completely. But those who lived emerged changed. Do-Hyun found he could sense the thoughts of the other transformed beings. Not read their minds, but feel their intentions and emotions. The barriers between species seemed to fade away. Captain Lee Do-Hyun looked at his reflection in the medical bay mirror. His face was still human, but his eyes now glowed with a faint blue light. The genetic transformation had changed him in ways he was still discovering. He could feel the presence of the other transformed volunteers across the sector, connected by something deeper than technology. Dr. Park Soman worked frantically at her science station. The cleansing wave had stopped the plague's spread, but new problems were emerging. Captain, we're getting reports from all over the sector. The cleansing process worked, but it's created unexpected side effects. What kind of side effects? The transformed volunteers aren't the only ones who changed. Regular crew members on all the ships are showing enhanced abilities, better problem-solving skills, improved cooperation instincts, reduced aggressive behaviors. Lieutenant Commander Kim Jinho, who had not been transformed, noticed the changes in himself. It's true, sir. I can understand the alien tactical reports without translation, and I find myself wanting to help them instead of fight them. Communications Officer Yoon Tae-hyung was monitoring transmissions from across the sector. Captain, I'm receiving similar reports from all 3 alien fleets. Their crews are experiencing the same changes. It's like the cleansing wave removed more than just the plague. Engineer Choi Minji had been studying the transformed volunteers' biology. The genetic modifications created a kind of template. When the cleansing wave spread, it carried traces of that template to everyone it touched. Not enough to transform them completely, but enough to enhance certain traits. The Vrex commander's voice came over the communication channel. His tone was different now, less aggressive and more curious. Human ship, we are experiencing unprecedented cooperation within our hive mind. Our usual territorial instincts have been reduced significantly. The Nethys collective leader added, "Our energy beings report similar changes. The constant drive to purify through combat has been replaced by a desire to purify through understanding." The Korath Empire spokesperson confirmed the pattern. "Our cybernetic analysis shows improved efficiency in all cooperative tasks. Aggressive subroutines have been dampened while collaborative protocols have been enhanced." Do-hyun realized what had happened. The ancient civilization didn't just create a test, they created a solution. The plague was designed to either destroy warlike species or transform them into something better. Soman nodded excitedly. "The genetic modifications we underwent were the key. We became carriers for a new kind of evolution. Not physical evolution, but behavioral and mental evolution. The immediate crisis was over, but the long-term implications were just beginning. Representatives from all 4 species met virtually to discuss the future. The transformed volunteers served as translators and mediators, their enhanced abilities allowing perfect communication between species. We need to establish new protocols for this sector," Do-hyun proposed. "The old ways of thinking won't work anymore." The alien leaders agreed, but they faced practical problems. "Our homeworlds don't know what happened here," the Vrex commander explained. "If we return with reports of cooperation with former enemies, we may be considered traitors or infected with foreign influence. The same problem exists for all of us," the Nethys leader added. "Our people have been taught to see the other species as eternal enemies. Changing that mindset will take time." The Korath representative had analyzed the situation thoroughly. "The optimal solution requires a demonstration of the benefits of cooperation. We must prove that working together produces better results than working apart." Do-hyun had an idea. "What if we created a joint exploration mission? Show our homeworlds that cooperation leads to discoveries and benefits that none of us could achieve alone." The proposal was ambitious. They would retrofit ships from all 4 species to work together as a single fleet. The transformed volunteers would serve as crew members on each ship, ensuring perfect coordination between different technologies and cultures. Minji volunteered to oversee the technical integration. "It won't be easy. Each species has completely different approaches to engineering. But if we can make it work, we'll have ships that are more capable than anything any single species has built." The project took weeks. Vrex organic technology was combined with Nethys energy systems. Korath cybernetic controls were integrated with human adaptive interfaces. The result was a new class of hybrid vessels that could operate in ways no single species ship could match. The first joint mission targeted an unexplored region beyond the sector boundaries. Ancient ruins, similar to the ones that started their adventure, had been detected on multiple worlds. But these ruins were different. They seemed to be libraries rather than weapons. "We're reading massive data storage systems," Soman reported as their hybrid fleet approached the first target world. "These ruins contain information about dozens of ancient civilizations." The joint away teams worked together with an efficiency that amazed everyone involved. Vrex workers provided the numbers needed for large-scale excavation. Nethys beings powered the equipment with their natural energy abilities. Korath cybernetics interfaced directly with ancient computer systems. Humans coordinated everything and solved unexpected problems as they arose. The discoveries were incredible. The ruins contained star charts showing the locations of hundreds of ancient civilizations. Technical specifications for technologies beyond anything the 4 species had imagined. Most importantly, they found historical records explaining what had happened to the galaxy's previous inhabitants. The plague wasn't the first test, Soman explained to the Joint Fleet commanders. The ancient civilizations went through cycles of growth, conflict, and either destruction or transformation. We're part of a pattern that's been repeating for millions of years. "How many species passed the test?" Do-hyun asked. "According to these records, very few. Most destroyed themselves or were destroyed by the plague. But those that survived and learned to cooperate became something greater than they were individually. The implications were staggering. The galaxy had been shaped by countless cycles of rise and fall. The current inhabitants, including humans, were either recent arrivals or the descendants of species that had passed their tests. What happened to the successful species? The Virex commander asked. Somin studied the data carefully. They seem to have moved beyond physical existence. The records suggest they became something like galactic gardeners, seeding new worlds with life and setting up tests for emerging civilizations. Are they still out there? I think so. In fact, I think they're watching us right now. The Joint. Fleet's success attracted attention from their homeworlds. Initially, military commanders from all 4 species were suspicious and angry about the cooperation. But when the technical specifications and star charts were transmitted home, attitudes began to change. The new technologies made faster-than-light travel more efficient. The star charts revealed resource-rich worlds that no single species could have found alone. Most importantly, the enhanced cooperation abilities were spreading to crews that worked with the transformed volunteers. It's like a positive infection, Taehyung observed. Instead of spreading conflict, we're spreading cooperation. Within months, all 4 species were requesting joint missions. The benefits of working together were too obvious to ignore. Trade agreements replaced military conflicts. Scientific cooperation replaced technological espionage. Cultural exchange replaced suspicion and fear. The transformed volunteers became the foundation of a new organization. They called it the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Captain Do-hyun, still recognizably human but forever changed, accepted command of the first permanent joint exploration vessel. The Harmony, he named it, looking at the crews from all 4 species working together on the bridge. Our mission is to explore the galaxy and help other species pass their tests when the time comes. The ship was a marvel of hybrid technology. It could adapt to any situation, solve any problem, and most importantly, it never had to use the same solution twice. Every challenge was met with innovation, creativity, and the combined wisdom of 4 different civilizations. Years later, when historians studied the events in the Kepler Nebula sector, they focused on one particular detail. The human research vessel Taeguk had been surrounded by over 2,000 alien warships. In the entire conflict, it had never fired the same type of weapon twice. In fact, it had never fired conventional weapons at all. Every victory had come through creativity, cooperation, and the uniquely human ability to see opportunities where others saw only obstacles. The phrase, "never fire twice," became the motto of the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. It represented the principle that every problem had multiple solutions. You just needed the imagination to find them, and the courage to try something new. The galaxy was a better place, because a small research ship had refused to fight like everyone else expected. Instead, it had chosen to think differently, act creatively, and turn enemies into allies. The ancient test was complete. Humanity and its new partners had passed with honors.